Let's first take a look at the Facebook newsfeed. The main problem with this view is that it lumps everyone's stories together, from those about your closest friends to those about forgotten acquaintances. Also, although there's no next page button, it's only showing you a small proportion of your friends' stories. There's no way of knowing how the stories are selected to be displayed, and it's hard to know which stories you're missing out on. So perhaps the solution is instead to show all of the news from your friends, but laid out in a way that lets you easily select only the stories you most want to read. But how do people choose which stories are important? What information do they need to make this decision? The results of the research I conducted amongst Facebook users suggest that who the news is about is a very important factor. Both current and old friends were considered the most interesting. Although uncategorized was considered the least interesting type of relationship, it was the category with by far the highest average number of friends. Perhaps my categories weren't very good. I definitely should have added a category for people you don't really know but have on Facebook anyway. But also perhaps it shows that trying to categorize friends is really quite difficult. So let's not make people sort their friends into different groups or decide who is more interesting. Maybe the computer should learn this by observing which people you pay the most attention to and use this to arrange the display. So now we're measuring your interest in each person by how often you click on their news stories. The most obvious thing to do is to use this to order the news feed and put the most interesting people at the top. But what if you feel it's wrong? Maybe you'd be able to override the ranking by dragging and dropping people higher or lower in the list. But dragging people a long way up or down the list is a tricky thing to do, and yet constantly moving people up or down one place would get very tiresome, and surely it's rather hard to decide exactly where they should be placed in the list anyway. This could be solved by instead just grouping people into broader groups, from your inner circle outwards. In fact, how about actually laying them out in circles? In this view, you simply see the profile photo and name of each friend. Hovering the mouse pointer over a photo reveals icons showing which type of stories there are about this person. Clicking on one of them reveals the story without taking you to another page. Not only does this make the interface uncluttered and straightforward, each hover and each click helps the system to learn who and what you're most interested in. If you don't pay attention to someone for a while, they'll visibly drift into a more distant circle, prompting you to view their news, contact them, or just drag and drop them back to a closer circle. So the distance from the centre represents how much interest you express in this person, but what does the angle mean? I suggest that similar people should be at similar angles around the circle. How do we measure similarity? One effective way is by looking at who has friends in common and who appears in photographs together. Here's a graph that groups people according to just this. The colours represent groups with lots in common. Essentially, these represent contexts in which the friendships exist. In this case, the pink shows members of the Circus Society, whilst the green circles are fellow PhD students. Using similarity to group people around the circle means that as we explore out and around the circles, we view each person's stories in the context of other people who share similar interests and activities. Thanks for participating in my research. It's been really interesting to see how different people are using social networking, and I'd really appreciate your feedback on my design ideas.